right in front of the fire here. This is the hot seat. We're going to drill the coaches in a moment, but first, I'm Dave Kane. I'm the voice of the Cavaliers, and I'll be your MC this evening. And always fun to get out as part of these VAF tours and see this beautiful landscape here and this amazing facility, but and also to visit with Virginia fans and supporters throughout the state. And speaking of support, one of the things that our friends over the Virginia Athletics Foundation, as you are very well familiar with, are taking part in, is they are launching their I Give 110% initiative. Now, if you've been on grounds anytime recently, you have a pretty good feel for some of the fruits of their labor. You don't have to look very hard with the George Welsh Indoor Practice Facility. If you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to. It's an amazing spectacle. I continually tell people it's just unbelievable what that building is able to do. I mean, it has cameras everywhere. We'll talk a little more about that. But also the Lanigan track facilities and the projects that are going on there, just to name a couple of the things that they're working on. But it all got me to thinking about, where in my life do I give 110%? And one of the first things, of course, that comes to my mind is, of course, my broadcasting, you know, thinking about getting better as a broadcaster and studying the players. People think you throw on the headset and away you go. And it's not that simple. There's some preparation, some research that goes into it, learning players, learning coaches' stories, and everything that goes with it. But one of the things people may not think about as much is this idea that, well, on game day, I regularly have to, well, corral my motley crew, if you will, of a broadcast crew. Now, some of you have met Ted Jeffries, Big Ted Jeffries. And I do mean big, and you are chuckling, so I think you all know what I'm talking about. But at any rate, yes, at 6 feet 9 inches in height, with plenty of punch behind it, Ted is in fact a monster of a man. And yes, he has made it very clear that he views himself as the true voice of the Cavaliers. So for me, no, at 6 feet 2 inches in height, it's not easy to suggest otherwise, but we try. And then, of course, there's fall, and my partner in crime during football season, Tony Covington. I'm guessing this microphone is not working particularly well. Well, I guess I have to hold it really close. Is that better? I feel like I'm about to eat this thing right now. But at any rate, Tony Covington, it's a job and a half just to make sure that he doesn't physically jump out the window when I'm doing broadcasts with him during football season when his emotions get running high. I feel like I need shoulder pads and helmets just to try to sit next to him when we're broadcasting a football game. But all things said and done, both these guys are amazing people and they're fun to work with. But of course, all joking aside, I think there are certain things that we can all agree that are worthy of getting behind 110%, certain causes. And with that in mind, the next person I'd like to introduce tonight to begin our speaking engagement this evening is a gentleman who is very much a part of ushering in some of the amazing things that are going on here at the University of Virginia. He's helped steer the Cavaliers in this program for the better part of the last 13 years. In his 12th year as the Director of Athletics here at the University of Virginia, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to Craig Littlepage.
Thank you, Dave. Do I need this? I don't need this, do I? No. Yeah, okay. Hey, thanks everybody for being here. And isn't this an unbelievable facility? It's just incredible. Dave talked about relationships. And when I think about relationships, particularly on this night, I think about a number of really good friends. Friends that I have known for 37 years. Suzanne and George Haney, please give them a round of applause. Mr. John Coates. I use friend in the loosest of terms. And tremendous friends, not only of the Little Pages, but Virginia Athletics, Jimmy and Rachel Graves. Jimmy, thank you. That's what athletics is about. It's about bringing people together and developing relationships, and I think that the program that we are building at the University of Virginia does that. This evening is an indication of that, and the kinds of friendships that I just mentioned is another indicator of that. One other special person, Whitney Newhouser. Whitney, please stand up. One of our former student athletes. And the greats in terms of our women's golf team. It's good to see you out here. thanks to everybody for being here tonight. And I'm the warm-up act for two of our stars, Tony Bennett and Joanne Boyle. I'd just like to say a couple of things. Dave mentioned a number of the good things that we have going on down in Charlottesville. He mentioned the indoor practice facility named in honor of Coach Welsh, and there's nobody that would have been a more appropriate person for whom to name that facility and what it will do for not only the future of University of Virginia football, but for the future of our athletics program generally. Have the facility named for George Welsh. And how about a round of applause for George Welsh? A week from tomorrow, May 10, there will be a ribbon cutting, the formal opening of the facility. What Dave didn't mention is that we've already put the facility to use. In fact, on the very first day of spring practice, it snowed, and the team was able to use the facility on day one. So already in the short term, it's been a great addition to the program. But facilities like the George Welsh Indoor, the John Paul Jones Arena, Davenport Field, we can go on and on and on. A couple $100 million in terms of investments that you and others around the country and around the world have made to help literally build this program and to make it the kind of program that it is right now. I say all the time that we couldn't do it without you. You have allowed us to build great facilities, and if you look at our facilities compared to others in the ACC and others around the country, over the course of the last 12, 15 years, we together have done some just unbelievable things in terms of bringing online the kinds of facilities that help our coaches recruit the kinds of student athletes that come to the university, but help us make the kind of impact with you, our fans, when you come to our events and you have the opportunity to be a part of Virginia athletics, whether it's baseball or football or basketball, etc. You guys have been fantastic in terms of helping build the program from that standpoint, and also build it because of the types of people that we have been able to attract as a result of the university, as a result of the ACC, as a result of so many good things about the University of Virginia. Attract people like Tony Bennett and Joanne Boyle and Mike London and Julie Myers and Kim Llewellyn. We can go on and on and on. It's because of the types of sacrifices, the level of generosity that you have shown, many of you, over a long period of time, so I thank you for that. I'll just end by saying that we have had some great things happen, not exclusively for the University of Virginia, but some great things happen as it relates to the Atlantic Coast Conference. And there's been so much that's been written and said about conference expansion and who's going where and when and why, and that sort of thing. But the announcement that was made about a week ago with the Atlantic Coast Conference, the 15, soon to be 15 institutions that will make up the ACC, signing on to the grant of rights with ESPN is one of the most significant things to happen in ACC athletics since the founding of the ACC back in the 1950s. This move alone will give assurance to our TV partner, ESPN, assurance of knowing who will be in the ACC through the duration of the TV contract. It virtually shuts the door on any conversation about somebody leaving the conference and bringing in the institutions, the level of which we're bringing in. It has been just a tremendous enhancement. I know that it's caused a lot of sleepless nights for Tony and Joanne in terms of the kinds of teams that we will be facing here in the future with the likes of Notre Dame and Syracuse and Pittsburgh and Louisville, etc. But isn't it great for you guys as fans to be able to witness here in Charlottesville some of those outstanding programs? And we will arguably have from A to Z in terms of the sports that are sponsored by the ACC, some of the outstanding competition that we could ever want in terms of a conference. Think about being a lacrosse coach, where you could be 5th or 6th in the ACC and be a top 10 team, or be a top 15 team. I mean, that's not too far-fetched in baseball and in so many of the other sports. So we feel very good about the future, not only of our program, that future and the bright light that's on our Futures program, I think, is directly related and attributable to two of the people that you'll get a chance to hear from tonight. But it's bright also because of the kinds of student athletes that all of our coaches bring to the university, because of the leadership of Terry Sullivan and what she's done and what she stands for. And it's also because of the bright light that shines now on the ACC, the certainty that's there, and the great future that we know that the ACC will have over the course of the next 15 to 20 years. So I'd just like to end by saying that it's a thrill to be here tonight. I thank you for not only being here tonight, but for making the drive down 29 as you do so many times over the course of a season, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, tennis, golf, lacrosse, etc. We're here because of you. We're here because of what you guys all believe in as far as our university and our department. It's a thrill for me, and I'm humbled and honored to be a part of this and to be your athletics director. And all I can say is that we will continue to represent you and represent the institution in the ways that you want us to. Go Hoos! I'll turn it back to Dave. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Coach Littlefinger. If he can go without the microphone, I figure I can go without the microphone. Yeah. All right. With that said, the next person I'd like to introduce actually kind of a funny story. We were just visiting out here, and as many of you know, Dirk Katzra oftentimes is at these events. Tonight he couldn't be with us, but you all very much are familiar with Ryan White, who I'm about to introduce. We were joking and said, this is your chance to show that you earned that seat one day. That seat's going to be yours, buddy. I said, you got the boss right here and everything. So, no pressure. Ryan White.
If I didn't introduce this guy, I'd be in big trouble with not only him, but my wife. Greg Fisher, another good friend of the little team.
So I normally don't do this, as Dave was saying. Dirk usually makes actually all the socials, and I was remiss that he couldn't be here tonight. I did not know that I had to follow Craig, and then we were also being videotaped, which we typically don't videotape. So I realize there is pressure on this. But I wanted to start out quickly by saying I'm not an expert like these guys that typically do this a lot of times, so I'm going to go to the coat pocket, as Tony does a lot of times. And the one question that I get probably the most from all of our basketball fans, men's basketball fans, is what's in that coat pocket, Coach? Can you tell us? Because whatever's in there, it works. I can't guarantee this is going to work.
I know what it is.
What is it?
It's a hotline back to Dad.
I made a couple notes here. I didn't want to forget some of the things I want to address with you tonight. A couple thank yous. Craig has thanked several people in here. There's one individual that really helped for this particular event, get a lot of the people out here tonight, especially the Madison folks. I want to recognize him, Carlisle Weaver. So, and also just recognize our staff really quick, Jessica Armistead and Marilyn Coates back there on our events team. We have the newest member of our staff is Margaret Fisher. She joined us. She was working in Charlottesville. She started just a couple weeks ago. So if you call into our office, you probably will get Margaret or one of our front office staff. And then Dylan Boggs, who works directly with me. Dylan's from Kentucky, been on staff for about a year or so. So obviously, if you have any questions, feel free to ask these guys. They're great resources. You know, the one thing that when I think of this area, this Madison, Culpeper, Green area, I've been traveling for about 11 years, and the one thing that always comes up, and I said to Jess, why are we doing name tags? And she said to me, Ryan, we always do name tags for these events. Everywhere we go, we do about 12 of them a year. And I said, yeah, do you know where we're going? We're going to Madison. I said, everybody knows everybody in Madison. And then she reminded me that we've got people from Culpeper, we've got people from Green. So again, to echo what Craig said, I want to thank everybody for making the drive here tonight. Hopefully, I will keep my remarks very brief and we can kind of move along. But, you know, just a couple facts about this area. This is our 8th largest market in terms of the number of donors that we have at the Virginia Athletics Foundation. Last year we had 9,200 donors overall, and we had 217 here in Madison last year. Not Madison, excuse me, this area. The year before we had 213. So, we're slowly growing, but we're always looking for those people in this audience. We've got a lot of people that are donors that have been doing it for a long time. We appreciate that. We've got a lot of good fans that drive up to Charlottesville, but if you're not a donor, obviously we would encourage you to become one. A little bit about most of you guys in this room probably got the invite for whatever reason that you're connected to the athletics program somehow, some way. The mission of what we do is scholarships, it's operational support for our programs, and then facilities. We do a lot of different things, but ultimately the lifeblood of what we do is scholarships. And so each and every one of you that are members to the Virginia Athletics Foundation ultimately help provide 650 roughly student athletes the opportunity to compete in the sport that they love. And, I was looking at the website the other day, and they tell you to, all right, let's look at your bio and give some interesting facts and stuff, and I kind of updated it, but they said, why do you work at the VAF? Why do you do what you do? And I think we offer one of the best student-athlete experiences in the country. I truly believe that. And I think not only is the school a great school, but our athletics program, year in and year out, is always top 20 in the nation in terms of the Director's Cup. And I think a lot of credit has to go to Craig and the administration on what they do. But I'm a proud member of the Athletics Foundation in terms of, I just can't say enough about what we do up there and your support, which means a great deal to us. We could not do what we do without you. And so, just to give you some big, kind of an update on where we stand right now, we're tracking about $250,000 ahead of where we were last year. That's great news, but we really need to be a little bit ahead of that because of scholarship, tuition increases, yada, yada, yada. So we're always, trying to keep up with that tuition increase. So hopefully we still have, 6-7 more months in the year to go, but we like the direction that we're headed, and we've had an initiative that Dave talked about, the 110% initiative. We really marketed this. We haven't raised our giving levels in a while. We don't want to do that. Voluntarily, we went out to the donor base and said, hey, can you do a little extra? And so many of you in this room that have a name tag who are members have a little logo that's 110%. Those are individuals that have increased their support 10% or more, so we thank you. We've had, to date, 45% of our donor base increase their support, which, if you look around the country that people do these programs, it's nowhere near that. So I think that's a testament to our fans and our supporters that when we need help, they've stepped up. And, the last thing I wanted to say before I turn it back to Dave is, when I started in 2002, we were in a situation where, we were thinking about John Paul Jones Arena, and there were some plans. And, facilities are always really nice. People like to see us build buildings, but the biggest concern was we were thinking about, at one point, dropping sports. And Craig and the administration, at the time when I started, said, we're going to make a commitment to not only not drop sports, but we're going to be fully funded. And I never really understood what that meant, but we have 25 sports at UVA, and the NCAA allows you a particular number of scholarships for each sport. So when you add all that up, for us, it's 316 scholarships. We had some of our programs that were not fully funded. We just didn't have the money to fund. And so over the course of several years, our donors helped us through that initiative to get where we are today. And it's something that probably doesn't get enough attention, because you'd be surprised out there how many programs are not fully funded, that don't get the allotted scholarships because they can't afford it. And that's where the donor support comes back in. So we all love JPJ, we love the improvements to Davenport. We need all those things. But at the end of the day, the annual fund is our bread and butter, and we need help. So if you're not a donor and are interested, we're happy to get you to sign up today. And again, thank you for your support. Before I turn it over to Dave, our guest tonight, Joanne was very nice last year. Many of you were there. Doug opened their home for Joanne to come and speak. We had 40 people show up. Joanne did a great job. And Coach Bennett, we've been to several socials with him recently. I think we're just really fortunate to have the coaches that we have, and we certainly shouldn't take it for granted. So that's all I have to say, and thank you for coming tonight.
I guess we'd say Dirk who? Nice job, Ryan. Well, I think we're going to go back to the microphone here because my man Mike Slamowitz, who's been kind enough to come out and tape this for us, has petitioned me for this. So we're going to make sure this is all on the record moving forward. But at any rate, Ryan talked a little bit about the coaches that we have with us this evening. And I don't know about you guys, but this year, more than many I can remember, right when the season ended, I was ready for basketball season to start up again. So I think there's a lot to be excited about, and we're going to talk a little bit of basketball here this evening, with both of our coaches being, of course, the head coaches for our men's and women's teams, respectively. That in mind, the next person I'd like to introduce, we talk about our coaches, and I think UVA is a special place because of a couple of reasons, but one of them to me is not only do we have coaches, and these two are very much in this category, do we have coaches that specialize in the X's and O's of coaching and really know game planning and game management and everything to a T. But these are also people who have a true appreciation and understanding for the big picture in life. And I think that's unique. We'll talk a little bit about that when we catch up with both of our coaches and what is going to be a panel discussion tonight. We've changed our format a little bit. Both of them will have some remarks for you, and then we'll have them sit up here with me, and we'll kind of engage in a panel discussion, then open it up to questions from you all. But I think one thing that when we talk about these coaches, they're both very quality human beings, and as you can tell if you visit with them, they're very kind and caring people. But make no mistake, they are both fierce competitors. And word on the street is if you're playing pickup basketball with Coach Boyle, you better have your head on a swivel. That's what I'm hearing. And I know from personal experience playing tennis with Coach Bennett, the same is true. But at any rate, that fierce competitive spirit both of these people have. And for Coach Boyle, it enabled her to take the Richmond Spiders to their first NCAA tournament in 14 years. Her next stop, University of Cal Berkeley. She guided the Bears to the Sweet 16 after that program had experienced 12 straight losing seasons. She's on the precipice of starting something very similar here at the University of Virginia. We'll talk about the reasons why, but one thing we know about Coach Boyle is she is sharp, she knows the game of basketball, and we are so thrilled to have her here at the University of Virginia after just completing her second year as a head coach on grounds. Let's welcome in the women's basketball head coach at UVA, Coach Joanne Boyle.
I just got instructions to hold it close. Just thank you. Thank you for coming out and being here. And I just can't tell you how excited I am. I cannot believe I finished my second year. I blinked and it was gone. And that doesn't always happen when you're trying to build a program. So it's been fantastic. And I can't thank VAF enough, everybody in this room, all the donors, Craig in particular, for letting us have the vision for what we're trying to build here at Virginia. And I've been many of places as they talked about, and I can't tell you what VAF, how good they are at what they do. And from Duke to Richmond to Cal Berkeley, they don't have foundations that are quality and understand what it really means to help coaches out and what it means to like build a successful program. And they get it so well. And with Craig's leadership and Dirk and everybody else that's involved, they're allowing us to do what we do. And to play in JPJ, it's the best arena in the country. I honestly mean that. The fan support and to be right on top of us. And you come when we're winning and you come when we're not winning. And that means so much to us. And for us to be able to really go out and get the quality student athletes that we really want to do in these next couple years, it really is about all these people in this room. And I don't know that we can talk so much about recruiting, but I feel very confident, very good about where we're going with that. And we could not do that without all of you. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
And again, we'll talk more with Coach Boyle here in just a couple moments' time. But before we do, I would also like to welcome in our second speaker tonight. And I talked on this discussion of quality human beings with our coaches. To me, one story that I've told a couple of times at these events, to me, really embodies that idea when it comes to Coach Bennett. I've had the chance to work with Coach Bennett for the last 4 years now. And one thing I can tell you is what you see is what you get. To me, when you talk about treating everybody with respect that you meet, doesn't matter who it is, this story really tells that distinction of what makes this person very special in my mind. We were sitting at the airport on the tarmac. I think it was 2 years ago, and I don't know where we were flying to, but one of the guys on the team, we realized, had forgotten his identification, his wallet, so he couldn't get on the plane. Now, I'll tell you this much. I've been around a number of teams, and there aren't too many that would wait. That plane would be ready to go. And I'll tell you this much. The guy's name, I won't say who it was, but his name was not Mike Scott. His name was not Joe Harris. And he was a walk-on. And as I said, I don't know, most places I've been, that walk-on would have been walking wherever we're going. But at Virginia, it wasn't going to play out that way because Coach Bennett was not going to leave his guy behind. And to me, it speaks volumes. He's a tremendous human being, a picture of humility. And, oh, by the way, he's one of the rising stars in college coaching right now. I'd like to welcome in the head coach of the Virginia men's basketball team, Coach Tony Bennett.
Thank you. Thank you. He was making me sound like a nice guy, but actually what I did to that walk-on, because he made us wait, we were flying to Florida State, I said, all right, you held the plane up for about 30 minutes. So when we got there for our dinner, I said, in front of the whole team, you've got to sing a song. So what does the guy do? He sings I Believe I Can Fly by R. Kelly. And there's nothing worse than seeing a 6'4" white guy who has no rhythm sing an R. Kelly song. It wasn't good, trust me. So, and Ryan, you're wondering what that is? That's the honey-do list. It's, take the garbage, don't pick your nose, make sure your fly's up, be nice to the players. So, that's what it is. But I said, you did a good job in front of the boss. I leaned over to Jess and I said, Ryan's doing a good job without Dirk being here. I said, where did he go to school? And she said, NC State. And I said, never mind. So you lost a lot of cool points in my mind. And speaking of doing a good job, you're the MC of this event. He doesn't even introduce his wife. What kind of guy is this? So I gotta get, that is Dave's wife, Ashley Matthews. So she's here, it's right there. So usually, I don't know, that's the stuff you do. So, no, I'm so thankful to be here. I'm thankful that Mr. Littlepage took a chance on me. Nobody knew a whole lot about me being at Washington State. And he gave me a chance to come here and help try to establish a special program like Joanne is. So I'm so thankful for that chance that I've had 4 years ago. Hard to believe. And I think we're going in the right direction. We certainly have some work to do. But so thankful for that. And these socials are really just our way of going around and saying thanks, and especially you guys, because most of you do go to the games. I talked to a lot of you, and we talked about the excitement in John Paul Jones Arena this year, certainly the Duke game, and just seeing the program grow. And it means a lot to be able to look you in the eyes and just say thank you. Thanks for sticking with us when we're still trying to build it, and it hasn't always been the greatest, and then showing the great excitement. So we're going to do it in a little different format this year, kind of an interview, a question and answer format, and I think you guys will enjoy that. But I do want to say one thing about Joanne. When I was at Washington State coaching there, I made my team. She was a coach at Colorado, and they were, you might have been 2 or 3 in the country. She had an unbelievable team, and I made my team, the men's team, go and say, we're going to go watch California play our women's team because they're one of the most well-coached, hard-nosed basketball teams I've seen. So most of my team went, and we watched her, and I can't tell you how good she is as a coach. My sister's a head women's coach, and she's one of the most respected coaches, and I love working with her. She's about the right stuff. So it's a joy to have both of us try to be able to lift the basketball program up to where it's exciting, and we'll need to with the teams coming in the league. But Virginia, and we know this, both of us do, is what is right about college athletics. I say it all the time. I always marveled at Stanford, and Cal was like that, but there's a lot of things wrong with college athletics. But Virginia is what's right. It's the pursuit of an excellent education, the best. And then for us, the pursuit of trying to build a championship program. So obviously we need your support, but we just love that chance, and you can do it here. So I'm so thankful to be here, and Dave, we'll turn it over to you, and if you want to really introduce your wife, you can, but otherwise we'll get started with the question there.
And let me thank you, Coach, for officially digging my grave. It's going to be a long drive home tonight, back to Charlottesville. Thank you very much for that. So, folks, again, we'll open this up to questions from you in just a few moments, but we're going to start with sort of a panel discussion. This is something that's worked well for us here this year as we've done this. And, Coach, oftentimes one of the first things that I've asked you when we've done these is you mentioned that story about, and I don't think you named him tonight, so I won't do it, the walk-on, the said walk-on who did his best "I Could Believe I Can Fly" rendition. Those are kind of the neat stories, I know, that as a coach make it a lot of fun. And I'll pose this question to both of you, but I'll start with you, Coach Bennett. Do you have any stories that maybe folks don't know about that you've experienced traveling, whether it's home or away for that matter, and as a coach that you can share with some folks that maybe they haven't heard before?
Sure, and this will be my longest answer of the night. I won't talk this long, but it's something that I got to experience this year. I've only told to 2 groups before, and it was so special. First of all, we have what we call them 5 pillars in our program. It's kind of like John Wooden's Pyramid of Success that my father established 30 years ago. There's 5 of them. It's humility, passion, unity, servanthood, and thankfulness. And they're what we talk about how we think the team should play, and they mean a lot to us. But I share that with you because they're a huge part of our program. Well, when we went and played at Wisconsin this year, someone was teasing me like, "Man, you got interviewed by Doris Burke on ESPN and you got all choked up after the game." And I said, "I know, I looked kind of goofy crying on TV after that because I usually don't do that, but I want to tell you the story why, because it's probably one of my most memorable moments." We went to Wisconsin the night before at the shoot-around. My father, who still lives there, was standing in the gym, the Kohl Center, and he was standing at half court, and he asked the guys, "Why don't you guys come over here?" So we're all standing around half court, and he said, "You know, when I had the job here, I was trying to build this program. They had just built the Kohl Center. It's very similar to the John Paul Jones Arena. Not quite as nice as John Paul Jones, but he said, those pillars of the program that I have, that you guys really believe in," he said, I had them laminated on a piece of paper. And he said, we took a piece of paper, and when this building was being built, we laid it in the foundation right underneath half court. And he said, because I wanted this Wisconsin basketball program, I wanted to be built on those principles, not on how nice the facility was, but I wanted it to represent the things that matter to us. He said, so when you're playing tomorrow, know that you're going to be right over half court of those things that matter to you. So then we won. It's a hard place to win, obviously, exciting game. And I'm standing there waiting for the interview, and I look up and I see the Final Four banner that I was a part of that he coached in 2000. And I saw some friends, and I just looked down and I thought, I'm standing right over those pillars. And then Doris Burke says, "Well, you know, great game, and you know, your dad's probably watching because he was at home. You have anything to say to him?" And I was just like, you know, it tightened up. So again, I'm sorry for the long answer, but that probably was one of the special moments that you guys wouldn't know about, but that you get to do. So I'm very thankful for that.
It's a great story. Coach Boyle, I'll start this question for you. Now, this is something that I know maybe a lot of folks don't know about you. And, well, actually, but let me rewind a little bit before, because I'm going to throw this at both of you guys, because I think this is kind of an interesting topic, too, in that most people may not know that when you guys were through with your playing careers, and, of course, Coach Boyle played for the Blue Devils. We say that kind of quietly around here, but that's all right. But with that in mind, neither of you wanted to become head coaches when you were through with your playing days. And Coach Boyle, I'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about that and what ultimately got you into the position where you are today.
Yep, back in the mid-'80s, I'll call it, that wasn't my passion. I ended up going to graduate school at Chapel Hill. I'm a little confused because I say this, I went to Duke, I did my master's at Chapel Hill, and I'm coaching at Virginia, so I'm trying to figure it out. But I wanted to go into the Peace Corps. I did hospital administration, health policy administration, and that was my passion. Ever since I was a young kid, I just wanted to serve people and just help the needy, and that's just kind of been, always thought, you know, Peace Corps, that's what you're going to do. And I played overseas for a while, and that's when women's basketball really started to take off. Really back in the 80s, there wasn't a career for women in basketball in terms of financial stability and even opportunity, to be honest, because more men were coaching women at that time. And so that was my passion, that was where I was going. And then I started playing professionally, and I just really missed being around the sport because I had done some work and done graduate school. And I came back, and I was in Cameron, and from playing professionally, I came back, and I would work out in the gyms in the summertime and then go back. And I was about to sign another contract and go back. And I just happened to run into Gail Gastoncourt, who had just been hired at Duke. I didn't know who she was. She was young. She was 28. And we were just playing pickup. I still didn't know who she was. And we just got to be friendly and friends. And next thing I know, she's telling me she's just got hired here as the coach. And then I was like, oh my gosh, did I say something to her bad on the floor? Did I do anything wrong? But I just loved her energy. And we just played that summer. She'd play all the time. We'd play pickup. And I'll be honest, she had such a passion for what she wanted to do at the age of 28. She was hired, I think she was 29 at the time. She was hired young right out of Purdue as an assistant. And she just had a fire about her and a passion. And I was like, I want that. I want that. And so I just had started thinking about missing basketball if I walk away from it, going to the Peace Corps. Was I ready to do that? And she offered me a position to be her third assistant for $12,000, which I was quite excited about. Back then it was called the restricted earnings position. And she convinced me to do it. And 6 months into the job, I fell in love, and I knew that that was my calling. And I knew that I could do what I wanted to do just for young people and serve in that way. And it has been a blessing to have met her and be able to work for her.
Jacket, you grab your father's, was it pad of paper? And then the hotline, as it were. What about you? Now, you finished playing professionally. Your dad was certainly a coach that was very well known, not only in Wisconsin, but across the country. How is it that you found yourself in the role that you're in today?
Yeah, similar to Joanne, my sister was a coach. She coached at Indiana, and I think it was Evansville before that. And I watched my sister and I watched my dad, and I'm like, they're crazy. The last thing I want to do is coach. I really didn't. I was like, I'm going to have a long career. I'm going to play. That's too much of a roller coaster ride. I do not want to coach. You got to be nuts to do that. And kind of the same thing. I got injured while I was playing overseas, and they said, well, why don't you be kind of the player coach? And I started doing that and just fell in love with it because Joanne's right. I think it's not as good as playing, but it's the next best thing. And the impact you can have on the young people you're with. I mean, we see them at their best. We see them at their worst. They see us at our best and worst. And you sit with them before games, you look in their eyes, and before you're going to play on national TV in front of thousands of people, and it's just there's some vulnerable moments that you can really, if you do it right, have a great impact. And I think it just kind of takes hold of you, and then you fall in love with it. But I didn't want to, but again, same thing, couldn't play, and that's how I got into it.
I mentioned the topic of the big picture and both of these individuals' ability to appreciate the big picture. Coach Boyle, I think just by virtue of the fact you mentioned the Peace Corps was something that you considered when you were through playing. That, I know, ultimately sparked a part of you that has launched, I guess for lack of a better word, a crusade of sorts, and you've been making trips down to Africa over the last couple of years. Tell folks a little bit about what you've been doing down there.
I see it was planted kind of in my heart probably when I was about 17 years old, and that was that ultimately in my lifetime, and honestly, a seed was planted at 17 and then I forgot about it for 30 years or 40 years. But I have always wanted to adopt, and I've always wanted to adopt from Africa, and that's just has always been on my heart, and then just kind of got away, and my life started, and here I go in coaching and all that. And then in 2008, I was coaching at Cal, and our foreign trip came up, and we had a girl on our team that was from Senegal via Japan. She actually went to high school in Japan, and a friend of mine down there had seen her and called me and said, you got to look at this kid. She's ridiculous. So I flew to Japan for 24 hours and watched this girl play, and she ultimately ends up at Berkeley. She's Senegalese. And she hadn't been home for 4 years. And I had a team at Cal that it would have been a great team for a lot of reasons, too long to explain, of why it would have been a great opportunity for them to go to Africa. One, to get Rama home. She hadn't been home in 4 years. And two, to take my team there. It was a very inner city-driven team. And it would be a great bonding trip. There were a lot of different reasons. And so we got Rama back to Senegal so that her parents could see her play. And we did some mission work over there, did some clinics for young kids, and visited some orphanages. And when I was standing in the orphanage, In Africa, I was like, what are you doing? Like, this is it. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And so I came back in 2009. I filed to start the adoption process. It is now 2013, and it hasn't happened yet, but she was born a year ago. Her name's Nagoti Rain, and she's 14 months old. And I hope to get her out of there soon, but it has been a blessing that Craig has allowed me and supported me to go back and visit with her. But I've been back 3 times this year. I'll go back once more this summer and get a chance to see her. But I have visited with, I've been with her for 30 days of her life, and I can't imagine her not being part of my life eventually, so.
It's a neat story. And now, as I understand it, 2014, summer of 2014, you're going to be taking your team back to Africa. Is that correct?
We were going to go this summer and take our foreign trip. Craig's been gracious enough to allow us to take this team at Virginia. By far, by none, it's the best trip I've ever done in my entire life for a lot of different reasons. You know, it's not the easiest trip to do, obviously, with the heat and the mosquitoes and the lack of food and things, but it changed my life, and it changed girls that were on my team. It changed their life, and I just want to give that an opportunity to just have our young people exposed to that. Who knows if somebody would, you know, ever go into nonprofit work or whatever, but they need to see what a third world country is like and how blessed we are, and it changed my life. And we ended up, as you guys know, or some of you know, we just became a little bit too injured this year, and we're really just starting to get some of those girls back, and I didn't feel it was appropriate to spend that kind of money to go over there and not give it our all in terms of the basketball and potentially set us back next year. So with our recruiting classes and the numbers that we'll have, and ultimately really to be able to keep that class, our 13s and our 14s will be the gist of our next couple of years of great basketball. I thought it was better to wait a summer and then take that group over. So we'll do that next summer, 2014.
Okay, let's take it back to the basketball court here for a moment or two now. And I want to get your take on this too as well, Joanne, but I'll start with you, Tony. Now, last season, your team, I think, surpasses a lot of folks' expectations. Next season for you guys, those expectations will be a little bit more in place, as they should be, with 92% of your team scoring back. You get Malcolm Brogdon back from the injury, Anthony Gill transferring in addition to 2 very, we'll say, capable point guards that are going to be coming in as first-year players. How excited are you for the upcoming season? I mentioned once the season ended, I was ready to call game 1 next year. What about you?
Yeah, I think a lot will be determined on how much our guys improve, how hungry they'll be. I think it was so valuable to get that experience in postseason play as much as we desired to make the NCAA tournament for our younger players just to play in a postseason setting. And again, JPJ turned into a great home court atmosphere. You guys that came out to that was terrific for us. But that ability after you have some success to be hungry. I ask our guys, we have player meetings at the end of the year, and I always say, okay, if you had to play yourself last year at this time, either in a game of one-on-one or you had to play, you know, your game compared to this year, what would happen? And most of them will say, oh, I would have destroyed myself. You know, I'm so much better. And that's the key. I mean, will you work that hard? Will you make that jump? You saw Akeel Mitchell make that jump. You saw Joe Harris do it. You've seen guys like Mustafa, Mike Scott. I go back to that. If guys are hungry enough to improve like that, then we can be good. We have 2 guys that you saw Malcolm Brogdon play most of his freshman year. Very good. And then you have not seen Anthony Gill or London Parantes, who just got named in California. They have 10 players they select to the elite first-team All-State regardless of class, and he was named to that. They had 6 McDonald's All-Americans on it, and he was not one of those, but he was in that top 10. So very good player. Devin Hall's there. We're bringing in some solid players. We have depth. If they're hungry and will compete, we have a chance. We're going to need to. The league, as we talked about, is so good, but I like we're getting a little older, and I think that's how you win with more upperclassmen or more experience.
No team is immune to challenges over the course of any season. So you mentioned the depth. Some will say it's a blessing and it's a curse. There's only so many minutes to go around. How do you deal with that part of the game? We've seen the game change. Guys transfer more than they used to. We saw Paul Jesperson recently announced he was transferring for a very similar reason to that. How do you handle that?
Well, whenever a player transfers, you always feel responsible. You have a part in that, and it hurts because you want them to stay, but they have to be bought in. And people transfer for different reasons, but This is about being part of something bigger than yourself. And I've shared this before, but we always talk about it, and it's something I learned from my father. You better have a group of guys you can lose with first before you win. Because every team, no matter how good you are, you're going to go through adversity. And if you don't have the guys that are willing to stay with it and not jump ship, but really stay with it and learn from that, because then when they learn from it, eventually you're going to win. It'll be hard. And I think we have a great nucleus and a great core. Competition's a good thing, but in today's day and age, it's different. You ask Joanne, there's over 500, and I don't know if it's as much in women's basketball, but there's over 500 transfers. I've lost transfers, and it set us back. I think it slowed us where we could have been. So you do everything you can. I think we treat them right. I make many mistakes with them, I really do, but I think I'm smart enough to apologize when I do, but we treat them well, and so few of them will have a chance to play in the NBA. Why would you leave Virginia and forego this degree? That's the way I look at it. You know, that's why you're here. So I think we have something to offer, but you're fighting a lot of voices in their ears. You really are. That it's sometimes perspectives aren't right. And there are good reasons for guys to leave, don't get me wrong, but it's a challenge. But you just get the people that want to be there and say, we're going to lace them up and we'll go to battle with whoever wants to be here.
Coach Boyle, your team, I know last season didn't have the results you were hoping for, but with that in mind, you have a group that's been rated as high as the 8th best recruiting class in the country coming in next year. Tell us a little bit about the makeup of your team next season and how you go about approaching this season when you have someone headlining that group, a Brianna Mason, who, oh, by the way, went to the same high school I know as Monica Wright and happened to break Monica Wright's scoring record at that said high school. That's got to be exciting.
I'll take anybody that can score 2,000 points in high school. But she did score right under 2,000 points, and great player, great person. But you know, we dealt a little bit like Tony with the injury bug last year with some key players, and we lost some early before they even got started. Lexi Gerson, one of everybody's fan favorite, great defensive player for us. We lost her for the year early on with some hip injuries, so we get her back for a full year. Rayshon Gaffney, who you haven't even had a chance to see, but she was a top player coming out of Ohio. So she had a tibia fracture. We didn't even get her on the floor. And then we lost Kelsey Wolf during the year to an ACL, and we had 2 concussions. So I think we only had 8 to begin with, and we were down to about 3, and we made 2 or 3 of them healthy enough to be able to be on the floor. But the great thing about moving forward is we get all of those girls back. We're kind of a little old and a little young. We don't have a whole lot in the middle, but our freshmen this year got a lot of minutes, so they'll be better sophomores for it. We get all of those girls back that will be seniors, so that's where our leadership's going to come from. And then we get to add 4 new players. And you know, rankings are rankings, but for us, they're pieces of the puzzle that are going to really help us kind of build similar to what Tony's doing. We're not going to be able to, you know, come out and roll out the red carpet next year and be like, aha, we've arrived, but it's a great first step and to build upon for next year, and then to add that 2014 class. And the way recruiting's going right now, we're going to have our 14 signed by the end of the summer because the process is being so rushed. So I'm excited about being able to put these next 2 classes together. I think then we'll be rocking and rolling a little bit, but I'm really excited about our 13s next year. Brianna Mason, a combo guard, 5'9", went to Monica's high school, 2,000 points, can play the point or the off guard. A girl by the name of Tiffany Suarez out of Miami, a 5'11" long wing. We run a matchup zone, and so I really like to recruit length, and so she brings us a little bit of length. A girl by the name of Sydney Mary, and she made the 18 and under USA basketball team 2 summers ago, so she'll be a part of us. 6'1" power forward. And then just a worker, like just a mean kid. She's just mean. She's out of DC. And I love her because she is just going to be, I think she's going to be a fan favorite because she's not as athletic, but you just want one of those people that are just going to go to war for you every day. And that group in general is going to go to war for us, and in particular, Amanda Fioravanti is going to go to war for us. So we're going to be a little bit young next year, but I like the progress and kind of where the program is going. And like anything, just like Tony said, we got to stay healthy. We got to figure out what this is going to look like in terms of the number of hours we want to spend with them and all of that. But it goes back to what Tony said about being hungry. And our kids came up with the theme this year, be the change. They really want to be the change. And that's what they're really focused on, is that they want to put this program, and these seniors want to leave a legacy here. And so they want to be part of this change, and that's the theme that they're going with. And they've proven it since the time the season's been over. All of them, not just 5 of them, but all of them have been in that gym working out. And I hear that ball bounce downstairs all the time, and that's a coach's dream, is to see your players in that gym working when you're not around. So.
But with you and Coach Boyle, do you often share notes and trade strategies and put your heads together, or is it just too difficult with your different schedules pulling you different ways?
No, I watch and I learn, and you gave me a couple good plays. I asked her about a zone play, no question. I actually grew up. I got to be a decent player by playing with the girls. My sister was a better player than I was. I couldn't beat her until I was 16 years old in one-on-one, and I've watched the women's game, and sometimes because the women's game isn't as athletic as the men's game, they've got to be able to figure out things to do, execute really well, and I learn from that. I like watching the WNBA playoffs. Sometimes I learn more from that than watching the NBA playoffs, and I love the NBA playoffs, but certainly, and she's a great, I like watching her teams play whenever I can, and certainly learn good things. As I said, I took my whole team at Washington State, and they're like, why are we going to watch, And I was like, no, watch, and they're like, that's a well-coached, tough team. That was your team with those girls you took on the tour, right? Phenomenal.
Yeah. I do the same. I love watching games and strategizing, and Tony's one of the best in the game. And yeah, we don't invent it, we reinvent it, or we just steal it and name it something different. But that little card that Tony has, I have a yellow sheet of paper, it's very similar. But I mean, there was a game, and I can't think of where it was, where you ran to get a 3, then you got an out of bounds play with a 3. I stole your flat screen drive, kick it. I mean, I've taken probably 3 or 4 things from them, and that's what we do. We share, we steal, whatever you want to call it. But you have to as a coach, you got to just kind of, and I love watching Tony in the block remover offense and different things that he does, and we have different personnel, but, can we use some of that stuff and tweak it? So I watch his defense. I don't know that we could be great at the pack line. Again, guys are more athletic, but we can kind of put our kids in the same position with our matchup zone, so it's similar. And we've talked about the matchup zone, and I've talked to him about the pack line, but yeah. And then the other thing that we do a lot, and I just love with Tony's just share and encourage. I mean, I text him after games, before games. He does the same with me. His wife's been great. We fellowship together. Just try and encourage each other, because it's a rough go at times, and so you just need that person down the hall to be like, you're doing okay, your head's above water, you got it going. And for me, just to be able to be in that environment, because that's not typical, I'll be honest, that is not typical of a men and women's program. I've been at many of them and seen my colleagues, and you don't find anybody better than this sitting right next to me to be that type of person for me. His whole entire family is like that, so. It makes being at Virginia one of the most special things.
Made the trip out here tonight. If you have a question for Coach Bennett or Coach Boyle, just raise your hand, and I will pass the microphone on to whoever it is that you'd like to inquire to. Anybody? Oh, Tony's ready to run. He's like, all right, we're out of here. Okay, we'll go to the back here.
I got a question, buddy. Come get the mic, or can I just talk?
Yeah, just speak very loudly, and maybe I'll.
My question for both you guys is, at the end of the game, I mean, this is something that came up a lot last year. I felt like it was always on ESPN. If you're up 3 points at the end of the game, the other team has the ball, do you foul and put them on the free throw line, or do you let them get the 3 to try to tie it?
No, it's good. It's a fair question, because I think it's situational, but we weren't real big last year, so I chose not to foul, and actually the times we did it worked out well. We had one against NC State at home, and one of my assistants is saying, we got to foul, we got to foul. The other one's saying, no, we don't, no, we don't. I'm like, shut up, let me think, so let me go to the card, let me see what does it say. So, here's the deal. It's, you bring losing into the equation, and I know the other arguments are, well, 4 things have to go wrong for you to lose. But if you foul and you're up 3, they make the first free throw. I'll give you this side of it. All right. Then they shoot the second free throw, and if you go and trying to block out, Plumlee and Kelly, or you name some guys, they miss that, and they're strong, and we got some, Nolte or Toby trying to block them out, so that ended it right there. Those guys weren't ready for it. But if they can get the offensive rebound, either get it and get a putback, and then they might get a foul, then they could get another 3-point play, you lose, or they batted out, they could get a three-pointer. So you bring losing into the equation. Now, I feel a little more comfortable with that, but I'm not saying I would never foul, but I think you got to practice that. And you put also the referees in a spot where, is it in the act of shooting? That might be a three-shot foul. I didn't trust our young guys, I'll be honest with you. I thought they'd do something, so, but that's my philosophy on it.
Yeah, I think it's situational. I mean, there have been times where this is where assistants think they're great, because they're just like, foul, and then, you know, and they're just like, yeah, you know, and you're trying to figure out in about 20 seconds, but the same kind of thing. At Cal, there was an opportunity where I would do that because I trust my kids on the free throw line because we were big. You know, we were a great rebounding team. We were not a great rebounding team these last 2 years, so I wasn't going to put our team in that situation. But I'm telling you, I've used timeouts where I'm like, we're going to do it, and then they set up, and then you call a timeout, you're like, no, we're not going to do it. And so that's why it's great to have 3 and 4 timeouts at the end of the game, because you're always going to kind of be put in a situation where you're trying to figure that stuff out. And Tony's right too, you got to practice that stuff. Because sometimes teams get it, and other times teams just don't have that cerebral basketball IQ to understand that stuff. So it is situational. I've done it one time. Thank goodness it worked out.
I've seen it work both ways. It's been good, and you know, both ends. So,
Other questions for either of our coaches here tonight? Gentlemen in the front row.
This is both of you. I've had the opportunity to spend some time with Dr. Sullivan. She's such an athletic man, and she has so much respect for the coaching staff. Does she ever come here to get input when you should foul, not foul?
not yet. She just told me in the ACC Big Challenge last year, beat Michigan. We played it. I was like, okay, all right, President Alex. So we did that. She's wonderful. Ask, you know, Craig about that. She's a great friend of the athletics program. She supports us. And is that a little music, mood music I hear in the background or not? So I don't know. But she's been great to us. And, you know, and this is why I think that, you know, Mr. Littlepage is one of the best ADs and why she's such a very good president. They support you, but they let you do your job. And I'm telling you, that's huge. Not all ADs, they want to know, and they have a right to. And he's coached. I think because he's coached, he understands that. But he'll give you support. He'll, you know, maybe say something if he needs to, but he lets you do your job, and that's significant. And that, I wouldn't want to work for anybody else. That's why I so want this thing to explode, so he can say, hey, you gave me the chance, and I'm trying to reward you with that. And so, but Teresa has been wonderful that way, and I respect her a lot.
Yeah, I just feel the same. You know, I mean, again, I've been doing it 20 years, and I can't tell you from this seat what that level of encouragement and support means, because some people think they understand what support means, and they don't really, you know, and I think Craig and President Sullivan completely understand it. More President Sullivan from a cheerleader's perspective and just loves the game, has box, comes to all the games and supports, but Craig being a coach and understanding what that word support really means, and understanding what it takes to build a program. And I mean, you see a lot of coaches that don't get that opportunity, it goes away too quickly. And I think this athletic department is like rock star when it comes to understanding what it means to build a program and how to support it.
Other questions? All right, in the front row.
Yeah, no, me too. He looks great in terms of the end of practice, and I'm sure there'll be an adjustment. But the surgery was a pretty significant surgery when they did all the things, the procedures he had. But he's practiced at the end of the year, looked fine. They're playing pickup ball now, and it's holding up. I saw him today after they played their pickup ball. I said, "How's it feeling?" He said, "Really good." So that'll be important because he's a powerful young man. I mean, you look at times you could have on the floor in the perimeter. Because Malcolm plays some point guard, Malcolm, Joe, and Justin as your 1, 2, and 3. Now those are powerful 6'6" to 6'5" guys that'll be physical. That's the name of the game. If you watch the NCAA tournament, the Final Four, the physicality stepped up, the defense, the rebounding, and I think we were a young team. Our inexperience showed. We were very good at home, but we didn't win on the road. We were competitive, but we couldn't win, and that's the sign to me of an immature team, and maybe poor coaching too, probably, but it really is a sign that you got to take that next step. and he'll bring that. But back to the thing, I hope, you know, you never know, but he's doing everything he can, and he's so dedicated to being healthy. But I'm excited because he's a good player.
By the way, healthy enough to play tennis last night. I did see him at the Snyder tennis courts, Malcolm. So hey, he's doing all right. Okay. Let's see. Other questions? How much more time do we have? I don't want to run us over. One more question from anybody in the audience.
Hey, Dave, can we ask Joanne to talk about how to manage your roster when you're down one or two people or you have somebody that's particularly fragile, managing minutes in practice, managing minutes of a key player in a game? How do you go about that?
It's a question both of these guys know a little too well right now, but let's pass it to Joy.
On the women's side, we get to use male practice players, and it's a little bit more difficult in an academic school because we're not finding 6'5" guys walking around UVA's campus that, but we do have a good core of them. So we really take, like Frankie Atera, she just could not go a whole, if we were gonna play her 38 minutes in a game, she could not practice a whole practice, really any day. And so we use male practice players to kind of bring them into the fold and have them go against our top 5, or let Frankie go every 3rd possession, or, you know, you just have to manage it that way. We do a lot of film. We would do a lot of 5-on-0. So sometimes you talk about the physicality piece of the game where you're just banging and grinding each other, you know, and it's a lot of wear and tear on them. So a lot of times we go out there and we have like more of a cerebral day, more of a basketball IQ day, and we're just going to run through 5-on-0 stuff up and down and do things like that to save their legs and put more kind of emphasis on the brain, which is not a bad thing, believe me, for them to learn the game. So I think between practice guys, substituting some film with that, doing some 5-on-0, that's kind of preserved some of our legs and really being able to let just 5, 6, maybe 7 girls play this year. And again, that is not the thing I want to do. So we will be trying to get 13 to 15 girls on the team, hoping that we start with 10. But we just didn't have enough bodies. And moving forward, you don't want to be drastic as a coach, because you don't want to go from saying, you know, 12 is a great number on your team, but we always start out with 12. We start the first day with 12 and we finish with 7, you know? So it's just a really rough sport, and we have the longest season of any sport. We're a 2-semester sport. They play all AAU in the summer. They're grind. So when we get them, sometimes we're just duct taping them together when they're seniors. And we just need more bodies to compete. We do. We just really need more bodies, and that's coming.
Nothing a little duct tape can't fix, huh? All right. Well, folks, I think we have some raffle prizes that Ryan is going to draw for you now. So I'll pass it off to Ryan, and we'll wrap things up for the 3 of us for tonight, though. And it's been fun. Thanks so much for having us. I'll hand it off to Ryan.